Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Chill, got into the video for today, and this is a topic that comes up very frequently, probably every week on the forums, on Discord, everything. It's the request for, when's a new power set coming, what powers are coming, are we getting a new power set in 2023? I'm not sure if it's just the same people asking over and over again. It's something that I've covered in the past in videos and why I push back against that. And there's a little bit of a twist to it this time. We found out some information that I wasn't even aware of. So that's why I wanted to cover it this time. But, typical thread can explain why there are no longer powers being added. Then everyone's posting things developers said in the past. So Panduras is the senior producer for DC Universe Online. This is probably the most asked question. No new powers at the moment. They take a lot of effort and time to create. Before we do, I'd much rather prefer to update or balance the ones we have right now. But I won't say never either. So the same thing. I mean, each time the developer can say, oh, we're always considering, suggestions and everything like that. So, I mean, I don't put any weight in that. But the whole point about balancing the ones we have right now, that's where I have had all my pushback and my objections against a new power set. Because they're right. If the developers want to create a new power set, it involves every aspect of the development team. So it's the programmers creating the actual animations and the effects, the art team. We've got the actual all the math that goes into like the power set power interaction creation, and then there's multiple abilities, animations, everything. So you pull off the entire development team, which is already very small at DC, as we know, how everything's delayed and less content and everything else. So not only do you pull a smaller team, the entire team off, you also have a whole bunch of new developers that are basically, interns to being trained, etc. So you have them working on a new power set on a new game that they've never had any interaction with before in terms of coding and everything else. So you want to pull that entire team off to create a new power set. The most commonly asked one I see is for wind, even though we have a lot of wind abilities already in the flight movement tree. But I mean, people everywhere, every power set thread I see, it's always people asking for wind powers, which even graphically, I'm not even sure how. I mean, you could pull it off, but I mean, it's not even really feasible in terms of having a whole power set based around wind. I mean, maybe if you want to do like kind of like the environmental effects or something, and basically turn yourself into Storm from X-Men, but there's just makes no sense to pull off the entire team to create a power set that you'll see here. The developers know that barely any people use it. You create a new power set, you put on okay. So after all that development team, multiple months working on a power set, the only return on the investment and the allocation of resources that they get are a 900 royalty points power set switch token. Or they just go on test server and play it for free, or they create a new character and spec it for free. So, I mean, there's no money to be made in power set tokens switching to a brand new power set. We all know this from Water. When Water came out, everyone switched maybe for like a week, switched back and never switched again. And then only for like survival mode. So it boils down to, unless a new power set is completely broken for DPS, no one's ever going to switch to it. If a gadgets or electric or rage prec DPS is going to destroy whatever this new wind power set or any other power set is going to be, no one's going to stay that. They're going to switch for the novelty, or they'll just do it like a free switch or do like a character skip token, CR token switch, not a CR skip to the new power set, mess around with it for the novelty and then switch back and never look at it again. How many water DPS do we see nowadays? So scrolling down here, same thing. I think I posted in this thread as well. So is there going to be a new power set? And that's no plans right now. No power sets are planned, stuff like that. And then I go into a little bit more detail what they said in Twitch. So it said, new powers are great, but they take a ton of dev time, and ultimately about 2% of characters use the new power. And then it's difficult to pull the entire the systems and art teams off everything else for such minimal impact, but it may be possible. It's the same thing. So either we get a new power set or we don't see a new DLC episode for 6 to 7 months. So is nothing new in the game for 6 to 7 months worth a new power set? I don't believe so. I think they would draw much more players back to the game if they refreshed, did a power set revamp, a supercharge revamp, weapons revamp. If they changed powers, so then you wouldn't have such heavily weighted towards the certain tier power sets, such weight on munitions and ice for might. You have rage prec, electric prec, gadgets prec, You wouldn't have all the weight on those because of the supercharges or because of the weapons balance and tune. Like imagine they changed like dual flurry shot or brawling shuriken storm. You would have to test all the new weapons. People would be using staff, different weapon combinations. There's like 40 different weapon mastery combinations. We're only using 2 of them. So if they did like a revamp or said, hey, all these power sets, we've refreshed them, we've refreshed the weapons and the supercharges, it would bring old players back just to see the changes. A new power set, if they say, hey, a wind power set's coming to DC, you're not necessarily going to have a new player or an older player come back to the game because nothing else has changed. Are the Gemini still the same? Artifacts are the same. Allies are the same. Power sets are the same. Weapons are the same. Why would you come back to a new power set when everything else is the same foundationally with the game? So what I wanted to touch on the new aspect, if we scroll down to the bottom here, Mep said there's a few, I guess somebody mentioned serums, because serums was supposed to be a power set. So a few reasons why serums was scrapped. Part of it with design and gameplay stuff. I know from conversations with developers at that time, they just couldn't make it like logistically work. But part of it was definitely the drug adjacent stuff. There was a lot of stacking up against it. Same thing, early answers are correct, and making new powers itself is a big undertaking, yada yada yada. But the whole like drug adjacent stuff, that's new for me in terms of serums. So if you aren't aware of serums, so this is SOE Live 2014 when serums was basically announced. Atomic was announced too. Atomic was originally supposed to be a healer power set based off Firestorm. And then serums was going to be the tank one. Then they switched to Atomic being a tank power set. But experimental serums was supposed to be inspired by Bane, tank damage, physical grappling, inject serums. So the way I imagined it was that you'd have different abilities in your loadout, and I guess back in 2014 that's why this wasn't feasible. Now it could work, but basically you hit one power, you get like a defense boost. If you hit another power, you got a health boost. If you hit another power, you got like a dominance boost, etc. So you would have to pick which power you'd want to use at a certain amount of time. So, if you're in a boss fight and you need a bunch of health or a big attack's coming, you could do a health boost. And then when that expired, you could do a defense one or different combinations. That's how I envisioned it. And I don't see, unless they're like the animation is like sticking a needle in your arm, like even the Bane animation, it's not really like, the Bane serum is technically a drug, but the way it's used in the comics, he's basically just turning a dial and kind of like amping himself up. Like, I really don't think you're getting like drug paraphernalia or like drug themes by Bane using his serum. Yeah, maybe in some comics books or storylines or something that I'm not aware about. But when I think of Bane, I'm not thinking of like, oh, he's just like injecting drugs into him like with needles and stuff like that. So I really don't see how that really impacted the development of this power set or the thought of it. But the way it would completely be a unique and fresh playstyle for a tank, because it would basically combine the different aspects. You'd have like the health boost from like from like a fire tank. You'd have like the defense boost from like an earth tank, etc. So you could either base yourself on buffing your physical stats for damage reduction, or you can have like an increase in dominance for your shields to be stronger. So it'd be really unique and fresh playstyle. So that's why if there was gonna be a new power set, I'm sure they still have some of the assets around from serums, and I believe that could work because it's something that would be, it'd still be plenty of stuff they still have to hash out, but if they were gonna do a power set, I think a tank one is definitely being refreshed, because if they do a new controller power set, controlling would have to change in general. They've destroyed controlling since advanced mechanics in the revamp. So if they made a new controller power set, it doesn't change that physically at a foundational level, controllers are still basically useless. There's no like debuff and enrage mechanics. All you're doing is like buffing, switching between like 10 different artifacts and like buffing health so you can buff the group stats. That's really all you're doing. Unless they want to make a controller power set that has like combines features of like artifacts. Like if you had a controller power set where like one ability put up all the debuffs, like the Bop Comlink, they wouldn't do that because it would eliminate the need for the Bop Comlink. But it'd be unique for at least a playstyle difficulty or a playstyle difference. But the same thing. Controller power set is really just impacted by artifacts and allies. I mean, you got the toxic encore from Batman to Laughs using a finisher, stuff like that. So I mean, a controller power set doesn't make any sense. Same thing, healer power set. What are you going to do? I mean, you already have burst. You already have like a shielding based one. You have like a pure healing one like nature. You have a water one with shields. So I mean, really at least a tank power set would be somewhat unique. So that's my thoughts on it. You know, I still don't believe that a new power set is going to be coming in 2023. I really don't think so. It's something that's being continually discussed, and really that the way the team is now, it's not going to happen. So people are free to still keep asking for it, and people are still free to disagree with me in the comment sections like my previous video, but I don't think the game needs a new power set. I think it needs to refresh what we currently have, especially after, you know, multiple years since Stats Revamp, and it just failing right now. Everyone, it's the same thing. It's just like the status quo right now. The status quo has to change. If the status quo changes in DC, then I can see bringing some new players back into the fold, trying to check out the game. So let me know what your thoughts in the description. Thoughts in the comment section. We'll carry on the discussion there. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you later.